You know, we didn't coordinate the music with the talk this time. We often do, but in fact, every one of those songs, Say a Tender Yes, Surrender, and Living in Harmony, are themes of this talk. Spontaneously. They happen to do with Taoism. But first I want to point to what's going on right now. Because it's most important whenever you come to a center like this to recognize that something extraordinary is happening as we're together. It happens all the time, but as we're together, we get a chance to turn our attention to it. And that is the fact that right now, each one of you, all of us together, are the moving, visible expression of that infinite, invisible one, the source of all being, that the Chinese call the Tao, that people call God or Spirit, or reality itself, but that each one of us, you, are right now its conscious and chosen expression of its being. Each one of us fully expresses what it is. We always have, always will. And so today's talk, while it's about a Chinese spiritual tradition, is actually about that fact. So as we're talking, begin to open. Treat this as an experiment to begin to understand what would it be like if I were looking at myself and my world as being the perfect expression of that infinite source that is always whole, perfect, and complete. I may not understand how or why. I may not be able to see it, but that it's true. I just returned from taking a long trip through Oregon, eastern Oregon, southern Oregon, doing a lot of hiking, and I began and ended my trip with hikes on Mount Shasta. And if you have not been up Mount Shasta, passing by it, do take time to drive up, because you can drive up above the tree line. And I was walking through a forest, high up near the tree line. And as I walked through the forest, you can just imagine, there was the sunlight breaking through the green of the branches overhead, and you could hear the sounds of the birds, and feeling the cool air on my skin, and walking on the soft soil of the path. And in that quiet, in that moment, I felt a stillness inside. Everything outside was still moving. But for that movement, for that moment, I was still inside. In this moment of inner stillness, I was reminded of a poem by T.S. Eliot that speaks of being at the still point of the turning world. And later I read something by the author Jean Shinoda Bolen that described what I felt in that moment. She said, "Whether I am lying under the stars or sitting in meditation or at peace in prayer, the intuitive knowing that there is a patterned universe, that there is an underlying meaning to all experience, that there is a primal source to which I am connected, this always evokes a feeling of reverence." It is this moment of intuitive knowing that I am connected to the universe as a whole, that there's an underlying pattern to the universe and that I fit into it. That's what we're here to talk about today. For that describes the essence of the Chinese spiritual practice called Taoism. All of Taoist practice is directed towards establishing a relationship with the universe itself, with the source of the universe, actually, the Tao, which brings this feeling of reverence and close connection. She goes on to talk about what is being felt at this moment in this way. She said, "It is something known rather than thought about, so that explanatory words are inadequate. As the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu begins, the Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. Yet examples help in the understanding, because almost all of us, often early in our lives, have had an intimation of what is called the Tao. Perhaps you too have had an experience of this. You've known that there's something deeper going on in your life than you experience in your day-to-day awareness. There's something more going on in you, in those around you, in all that is happening, that is deeper than commonly appears. That something deeper is what the Chinese call the Tao. The Tao, in the Tao Te Ching, the most well-known of Taoist scriptures, and by the way, short of the Bible, it is the most translated work in the world. This is a book of 81 short verses that people continually return back to. It's a 2,500-year-old book. And in it, the Tao is described in this way. All things arise from the Tao. It cannot be seen, it is beyond form. It cannot be heard, it is beyond sound. It cannot be held, it is intangible. The Tao is hidden and without name, hidden deep but ever present. The great Tao flows everywhere. It cannot be exhausted. The Tao alone nourishes and brings everything to fulfillment. In those moments, what you feel is that all things are aspects of the same one thing that the Chinese call the Tao. And that it is this Tao that nourishes and brings everything to fulfillment, including you. Not much can be said about it. As you heard, it begins. The Tao that can be told, the Tao that can be spoken, the Tao that can be talked about is not the eternal Tao. And you've probably all heard the Taoists saying, those who know don't talk about it, and those who talk about it don't know. But we're going to continue with this talk anyway. As one translator wrote, unknowable as the Tao may be in essence, one must somehow learn to sense its presence and movement in order to bring one's own life and movements into harmony with it. Have you ever been in a river? Did you notice how easy it was to go with the flow of the river and float effortlessly downstream with the current? And how much effort it took to go upstream? Did you notice there's no way to push the river to make it go faster or to slow it down? This is our relationship to the Tao. Taoists say that you must move with the Tao, with how it is moving, or you will experience opposition, frustration, exhaustion, defeat in all that you do. However, if you learn to sense the Tao's presence and movement, how it's moving in your life, how it's moving as you, and bring your life and movements into harmony with that, you will experience peace and fulfillment, and you will float effortlessly on the currents of the energy of life. This is what Taoism is about, to go with the flow, to move with the way things actually are moving. Your fulfillment, my fulfillment, say the Taoists, requires that we learn how to harmonize, live in harmony with the movement, the flow of the Tao. This is the point of Taoist teaching and practices, to bring us into harmony, to return us to the Tao. And even though we can't talk about it, the Taoist masters have told us much more about what we can do to live the Tao for ourselves. First, they say, don't look outside yourself. From the Tao Te Ching again, there's no need to run outside for better seeing, nor to peer from a window. Rather, abide at the center of your being. The more you leave it, the less you learn. Search your heart and see. The way to do is to be. So the first thing we're told is not to move outside of ourselves, looking for some other solution, for something that's over there, somewhere else. that won't work. It won't actually bring us to the source of our being, to that which is moving in us. By the way, the phrase, there's no need to run outside for better seeing, nor to peer from a window, is the Taoist saying, don't use your senses to find the Tao. Use your intuition. Live by something that is deeper than what your eyes and ears alone show you. When I read this, I was reminded of a story I heard from a shaman of the Yurok Indian tribe. He was a wonderful man, and he taught me many things. And one thing he taught me was this. He said, when you want to be a shaman, a medicine person within the Yurok tradition, you needed to pass a test. I said, what's that about? Well, he said, first of all, you have to go ask someone, will you teach me? I want to learn how to be a shaman. And they say, well, yes, I'll consider it. But first I want you to do something for me. I want you to show me 10 beautiful, amazing objects, things, something, 10 different amazing and beautiful things. And if you took one step away, you failed the test. If you went somewhere else to find them, if you looked outside in some beautiful realm and didn't find them in yourself and in where you were immediately, you failed the test. I think we're all failing the test. Where might you be doing that right now? What are you looking for that is outside you that will come later, that will come when you become more accomplished, more skillful, whatever? That's not where the Tao is. That's running outside for better seeing. Rather, abide at the center of your being. The more you leave it, the less you learn. Search your heart and see the way to do is to be. That theme of what doing actually is a way of being, is something that Taoism really brings to light. But we're still on our way to this process of learning how to harmonize with that which is always flowing through and around us all the time. So the first thing is, don't go out and look for it somewhere else. The second thing is, drop any ideas you have about how it is, about how you have to be. Just drop any ideas you have about it. Alan Watts, a spiritual teacher in the West, said the transformation of consciousness that Taoism brings about is not keeping on adding more and more learning, more and more facts, greater and greater skills, but rather an unlearning of wrong habits and opinions. As the Tao Te Ching says, those who seek learning gain every day, but those who seek the Tao lose every day. Many stories are told about people who know too much already, even before they've looked to see for themselves what is there. Wonderful story that comes from the Zen tradition, and I might say, and as an aside, I am a Zen Buddhist priest, many of you know that, and that actually Zen Buddhism came about in Buddhism when Buddhism in China met Chinese Taoism, and then Zen Buddhism appeared. So I feel like I'm talking about my spiritual grandparent. So this is a Zen story. And it's about a man who comes to a Zen master and says, I want you to teach me what Zen is. And the Zen master says, okay, please come and have a cup of tea. And as they're sitting together, the Zen master is pouring the teacup for the visitor, and he keeps pouring and pouring till the cup is overflowing. And the visitor says, don't you see what you're doing? And the Zen master says, like this cup, your mind is already full. No more can go into it. Mark Twain put it another way. He said this. He said, it's not what you don't know that causes you problems. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so. What do you know for sure that just ain't so? Do you know that you have to become a different person? Do you know that the way to get from here to there requires you to negotiate with these people, to work, to be a different person? Are those the things that you know? Well, Taoism says you don't know. All of your rational understanding of what has to happen for something to happen, of what you have to be in for something to happen, of what you have to do for something to happen, that's all something you don't know. And so, we're talking about, I don't know. I really don't know. I do know that what I am knowing now isn't really working so well. Now, I'm saying that for you. Maybe it's not true. Maybe you do know and it works well. Then there's another lecture for you. But most everybody here recognizes that there's somewhere in their lives where, it's not working. Well, Taoism says it's because you know something about it that it just ain't so. So not only that. So first, drop your ideas about it, but then you need to drop not only your ideas, but your opinions about how it should be. Your opinions about how it is. Your feelings about it. The Tao Te Ching says this, stop thinking and end your problems. All right? What difference is there whether you approve or disapprove of something? What difference is there whether you succeed or fail? Must you value what others value? Avoid what others avoid? How ridiculous. Other people are excited as though they were at a parade. I alone don't care. And that's the Taoist master saying this. I alone don't care. Taoism says, have no opinions about things. Have no plans. No attachments that things turn out a certain way. No attachments that having certain things is what you need. No attachments to doing things in a certain way, including habits of all sorts. This practice of letting go of not only ideas, but opinions, habits, beliefs, is at the heart of Taoist practice, is at the heart of harmonizing with the Tao. It is at the heart of entering in a continuous way and living from that stillness that we're talking about. As you're listening to me right now, remember that stillness beneath what you're thinking, beneath what you're feeling, beneath your plans, beneath your opinions, beneath your reactions. There's a place in you that is absolutely still right now. This is the place that the founder of our particular teaching, Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes, said, there's a place in you that has never been hurt, harmed, or endangered. It is this place of stillness. Many Taoists refer to their meditation practice as sitting and forgetting. It's a lifelong effort, and it's an effort to release and uncover ideas, plans, attachments, all the things I've talked about, so that I can feel right now what the Tao is doing. How do I know what the Tao is doing? Through my intuition. The Tao is continuously moving in you. Just think, if there's a current moving through you, you'll feel it. And as you feel it, that's the Tao moving, and you know it as intuition. By the way, if you're not sitting and forgetting, the Taoists say you're sitting and galloping. I love that phrase, because it really does describe for me what's going on in my mind most of the time. What you have to do is learn to pivot. There's a phrase in Taoism called the hinge of the Tao. And it really means that there's a source, or that, just imagine a pivot point where you're attached to, in constant contact with the Tao, but you can move in any direction from it. It's called the hinge of the Tao. It can turn in any direction, and in that turning, it's free to turn its attention wherever. Modern brain studies and ancient teachings like Zen Buddhism meet at this point, because both recommend developing this kind of skill. If you want to keep your brain sharp, if you want to get smarter, learn how to free your attention. Learn how to be able to turn it to something else. My Zen teacher, Suzuki Roshi, used to talk about how he had to encourage himself to stop reading. He loved to read. And he said, I have to encourage myself to stop reading and turn to something else. It isn't that the something else is something that I need to do or is better to do or whatever. I know I'll like what I turn to. He said, it isn't what I'm turning from or turning to, it's the fact that I'm turning. That is important. And indeed, those brain studies reaffirm that. This flexibility of attention, however you develop it, not becoming obsessed, not having to think the same things or give your attention to the same thing over and over again, this flexibility is what the Taoists call the life of free and easy wandering. Wandering, looking for and encountering the Tao, the One, the source, your source, everyone's source, active in every moment. You're not caught by any particular way. And then the Taoist masters say, really do learn to be still. Don't be busy in the world getting things done. The Tao Te Ching says this, returning to the quote that I started earlier, those who seek learning gain every day. Those who seek the Tao, the way, lose every day. They lose and they lose until they find nothing to do. Nothing to do means nothing is not done. Who rules the world isn't busy. If someone is busy, he can't rule the world. The Tao Te Ching is often written as to an emperor, actually. It's actually, at the time, was written to advise rulers about how to take care of their world, of their kingdom. But of course, it applies to us and our kingdom. It's us that it's talking to. And in fact, rulers were told to be like the North Star, to be the center around which everything revolves. All they had to do was sit facing south and let their whole kingdom govern itself. So Taoists speak of not doing as the ultimate form of action. That's kind of an odd thing, but that's the way Taoism speaks. It says that if you think doing something to get it in order, to get it in shape, is not harmonizing with the Tao. You need to learn what it calls not doing. And it doesn't mean not actually acting. It just means that whatever you do it without some special intention to get some result, without being pushed by your feelings, without calculation of any sort. Act only when the Tao prompts you to, spontaneously, through intuition, not by decision or declaration. That is stillness within. Stillness without, because we're moving to stillness within. We are to be aware of the stillness we've been talking about and practice it everywhere. Eckhart Tolle, one of our current spiritual teachers, talks about stillness a lot. And he says, silence is helpful, but you don't need it in order to find stillness. Silence is not required. Even when there is noise, you can be aware of the stillness underneath the noise, of the space in which the noise arises. This is the inner space of pure awareness, consciousness itself. And spiritual teaching after spiritual teaching says, you are not an ego. You are not the person you have been taught you are. You are not what society tells you are. What you are is this space of pure awareness in which everything happens. That's your true nature. And so stillness is tasting that true nature, dwelling in it. According to Taoist teaching, to the mind that is still, the entire universe surrenders. It's interesting. I can tell you these words. I can talk about this teaching, and we can say it's something it's 2,500 years old. It's got many different traditions within it and so forth. And it can seem foreign. But it's really talking about who and what you are. Who and what you are called to return to being. Be still within. Be still without. Respond to the Tao always, in every moment. And how do you do that further? It requires that you trust it. Taoists are in such a close and intimate connection with the Tao that they say we are to learn to rest and lean on the Tao like a child resting in its mother's arms. To let ourselves be carried by the source, the one that nurtures and sustains and fulfills us. To trust it, to do that. That's why you don't have to act to correct things. What you have to do is to return to the stillness that allows you to see what they actually are. Not seeing with the eyes, but with the heart. And then things begin to harmonize in ways that you would never have seen with eyes alone. And we are to be amazed by it. The Tao Te Ching says, existence is beyond the power of words to define. If a name is needed, wonder names everything. From wonder into wonder, existence opens. There are teachings such as the Kabbalah within Judaism, which say, there's no way to actually get a sense of what God is through ideas. The only thing that will open you to what God really is a sense of awe, overwhelming awe. That opens you to God. Wonder after wonder. Amazing. That's what's going on now. That's what's going on always in your life. And we are to approach, to develop the ability to see the amazement, to feel it, that life is. And we need to be completely present. The Taoists talk about being present and in responsive relationship with the Tao. In fact, they say, when you are in that still place, then the Tao, the world, you as the North Star, the world can take care of itself. And you will participate as necessary, as called. In that poem that I quoted at the very beginning of this talk, it goes on. It says, at the still point of the turning world, neither flesh nor fleshless, neither from nor towards, at the still point, there the dance is, but neither arrest nor movement, and do not call it fixity, where past and future are gathered, neither movement from nor towards, neither ascent nor decline, except for the point. The still point. Except for the point, there would be no dance. and there is only the dance. We are invited into a dancing, responsive, fulfilling life. We are invited to return to what we actually are through Taoism. The universe is your partner. The universe is your partner. We are to respond to it. We are to trust it, be amazed by it, and dance with it. And we do this by doing something that I heard recently one of our ministers say at the end of a treatment. You'll often hear at the end of a treatment, which is our form of prayer. She said, and so I just let it be. And then she said, and so it is. I just let it be. That is Taoism, to really let it be, because of all this that I talked about. So right now, let us enter into prayer. And let what is here be all that we have been looking for. So I speak this word right now, knowing that as I do so, that the Divine One is present as each person here. That the Tao is present, is the source of, is nurturing and fulfilling every person here, right now. That each person here is the way that this Divine One is knowing and living and loving life. That each person here is the perfect expression of its being, for there is nothing but the Tao. There's nothing else going on. There's nothing but the nourishing and fulfilling of life happening as each one here. So I speak this word in that awareness. And I accept that we are given in this moment a new way of knowing ourselves, that something has been released in us, that we've let go some idea of how things are or how we have to be. And maybe we've just simply said, maybe that isn't true. Maybe it just ain't so. In that awareness, I know that the Divine One appears now, because there's nothing else to appear once we let go of any ideas or thoughts we are holding it down or into some shape with. And when it appears, as it appears, right now, this new vision, this new feeling, this new awareness, this new connection, this new relationship with life happens in everyone here. It's happening right now. So I acknowledge what's going on. I give thanks for this awareness. I give thanks for these teachings. I give thanks to know that this is the way things are, not some other way. And I release this word. I let it work its work. I let it happen. I just let it be. And we say, and so it is.